Welcome to the Smart Thinking Podcast. This is my dad, Ted.
Welcome to the Smart Thinking Podcast. I'm your host, Ted Knightsky. I missed you, but I needed a break. I needed that break badly. Not because I was on the verge of falling off the cliff. More importantly, because I didn't realize how badly I needed the break. Man, did I have some fun adventures in the month of July and early August. So many great experiences, books read, records listened to, and time with family and friends. In the last 5 weeks, I've been to Washington, D.C., Charleston, South Carolina, Estes Park, Colorado, Lincoln, Nebraska, Fayetteville, Arkansas, Little Rock, Arkansas, Lac La Belle, Michigan, and of course my hometown for a bunch of stuff. But on those travels, I have been learning, growing, and getting ready to go into this year. Some of those places I was relaxing, others learning, others presenting, and some of them supporting some of you. Through it all, I was getting fuel for this season. I can't believe I'm about to say this out loud, but this is the 9th season of me hosting the Smart Thinking Podcast. 400,000 plus downloads and people who've listened to this. And I thought one day I'd actually run out of stuff to talk about. But life is funny. It just keeps giving me content. So this year, I'm going to weave in well-being throughout the leadership and processes to ensure that we can all learn and grow together as we focus on our best self. And today, I want to talk about the impact of you and energy when we launch into a new year, project, or season of life. I have forever talked about the impact of you on others, which is why today we're going to remind ourselves of the impact of our energy, enthusiasm, mindset, attitude, and actions when we start anything for ourselves, for others, by ourselves, or with others. We matter, and how we launch is how we begin, and how we begin is really critical. I'm done with pessimists. Yeah, it's a flat-out statement. It's a t-shirt we should get. Heck, one of you should make that t-shirt. Let's get them for everybody. I'm done with pessimists, and you should be as well. When people bet against teams or others, we need to answer that with unabashed energy and blinders and earmuffs to their negativity. We need to overwhelm them with a sense of optimism because we know that we'll get her done if we do. Well, at least that's what Mater used to say when I watched the movie Cars over and over again with Charlie when he was little. Now, before I launch into my story or process, a few reminders here as we begin Season 9. Reminder 1. You are a leader, and a leader is anyone with influence over another person, meaning every single day, everything that you're doing, everywhere you go, people are watching, learning, and growing through your example. Second, we're all followers, and a follower is anyone who demonstrates the CARE principle, collaborating with others, holding themselves accountable, being resilient, and engaged intentionally. And I want to stop on collaboration again. Collaboration is something that I hear a lot, I feel is overused, but it is underutilized in our efforts to grow as leaders. A collaborator is someone who steps into the space provided to them by others. Provided to them because we have that strength, we have that energy, we have those abilities to step in there when someone cannot give 100%. In the few weeks ahead, we're going to be talking about transactional leadership and the fact that there is no place for it anymore. And true collaborators live by the 70-30 principle. They give 70% when others can only give 30%, and they take 30% when they need it. They also, when they can only give 30%, receive 70% gracefully from those around them. And that's what creates collaboration. The last 3 things that all leaders are is empathetic, reflective, and buffaloes. Constantly wondering what it's like to be in the shoes of those around us and those that we serve, reflecting at the end of each day, asking ourselves, what did we do well for others, and finally charging into every storm that we face, because that is the way of the buffalo. Now, per usual, before we start solving the problem that I've identified, we need to bring some energy to it with a story. And here it is. My kids, Charlie and Grace, my adult children, 23 and 20 years old, and I went camping in the Rockies that last month. It was the 3 of us, and when I say we went camping, I want to make certain to frame this properly for you, because a lot of people assume that when I say I go camping, I've got some like motorized bus camper that I go in. No, that's not the case. I don't even have a trailer. I have a car top carrier, and, well, I don't have that snazzy stuff because I don't want it, because I'm a gear guy with passion and a passionate love for REI. I've got a lot of gear. I love to tent camp. I love to sleep on the ground. I love to get up in the middle of the night and stare at the stars as I work my way to some tree that's about to support me. And just to make sure we're all on the same page here visually, I wanted to make sure that you understood that when I go camping, it's old school. We camp at this great campground on the southeast side of Estes called Herman Park Open Space. It's a county campground that I discovered because, well, when I travel, I always try to support local businesses, and I always call in advance and talk to their Chamber of Commerce. And then a few years ago, I called in the Chamber of Commerce and I said, where can I camp that supports local businesses? And they said, Herman Park Open Space. And I fell in love with it. Anyway, we camp there, and then each morning we head into the Rocky Mountain National Park to hike, hammock, climb, do whatever. And we're a hiking family. And each morning we get our packs and load them up with everything we'll need for the day. Camelbacks filled with water. Charlie makes our sandwiches. Gracie packs the snacks. I give the punch list to make sure the packs are properly packed. Chairs, knives, rain gear, everything. We always pack extras, and we have contingencies because we're kind of pros. As we pull into the national park and begin our journey, we look at the map of the trail and the trail map, and we see that the trail we're doing on this particular day is 6.5 miles one way, so roughly 13 miles total with 1,200 feet of elevation gain along the trail. The destination is a glacial field and waterfall, which feeds 3 alpine lakes that we will pass as we work our way up. And just as we start the trail, Grace and Charlie and I are talking. Because the beauty of hiking in the mountains with your family or anyone is that once you hit the canyons, boulder fields, or valleys, there's no cell service. There's no distraction. And you know it, so you're never drawn to your phone. And we can be digitally free. As we get to the trailhead, Gracie asks us, hey, have any of you ever seen the TikToks of people who go hiking and they try to greet people using a different word every time they see someone, and they do it using the alphabet in their order? It's the ABCs of hiking. Charlie audibly sighs. Oh, did you really just say that out loud? And he's finishing his sentence, and I'm starting mine, and I say, I'm in. The challenge is to greet people in 26 different ways and take on that challenge, saying a different word using the first letter of the alphabet each time. I'm totally in. My kids are now behind me a little bit as I start hiking, and before I tell you how this goes, I want to share an observation after 30 years of hiking and 6 years of scouting. People who go for hikes fall into 4 categories, at least in my mind. As I'm hiking and seeing different people, I see them as near pros. People who look past geography and focus on topography. What does that mean? Well, they'll look at the map, but pros look at the topography. They see where the hills are, where the inclines are, where the declines are, where the valleys are, where it's going to get steep, where it's going to be long, where it's going to drop off if you're not careful. They understand the entire journey. Then there's weekend warriors. They're geography people. They look at the maps. They have the gear and are prepared, but don't always realize what they've signed up for, and are constantly surprised on the journey of like, I didn't think it was going to be this steep, going up or down. Then there's somebody I call the passenger hiker. They're the people who come along because other people thought it was a good idea for them to come along. I don't like doing this, but my friends do, and that's kind of what they say out loud, so I came along hesitantly. These are good people who want to go hiking, but don't really understand what they're in for. Every switchback or turn, they're kind of surprised by, there's still a lot to go. They usually ask a lot of questions. Questions like, how much farther is it? When are we going to stop? Do we take breaks? Why did I have to buy this gear? And then there's the rookie. No experience, but they've got romantic expectations. They shoot out on the trail. Sometimes they go shopping and they buy all of the stuff. Sometimes they don't have any gear at all. But either way, they've never done it before, and you can tell by the way that they're moving up and down. You see, there's a certain etiquette to hiking. When you are coming up the mountain, people should stop for you because on the way up, it's more difficult. On the way down, it's easier, so you should take the break and allow them to pass. I can always tell who the pros are, who the weekend warriors are, who the passenger hikers are, and who the rookies are, just based upon that one simple piece of etiquette, how they pass on the trails. Now, we also work with a lot of people like this, right? I mean, as I'm describing those 4 different behaviors, you're like, yep, there are the people who know what's coming. There are the people who have the energy for what's coming. There are the people who just came along because, well, it was the opportunity to get a bullet point on their resume. And then there are the people who are so excited because they're brand new that they don't know what to expect and they've got romantic expectations and they bring some energy. Now, I would qualify myself as a near pro. I have a pack that weighs a bunch because I literally have every possible contingency in it. A shovel, wipes, matches, ropes, 2 knives, lots of other gear, first aid kit, you name it. You run across me out in the woods, on a mountain, on a trail, in the desert, and I've got my backpack on us. Not only are we going to survive, we're going to thrive. Okay, when you're on a trail, you run into all these types of people. My favorite is the rookies, who you see coming up with a ton of energy, and then you slowly begin to see them realize that a mile going up a mountain seemed like a good idea, and they probably shouldn't have worn Crocs. Okay, so I start out with this self-imposed challenge of doing the ABCs, and I am fired up. The first person walks past me, and I say, "Oh, amazing day to be out here." Second person, beautiful trail. I say each of these with an extra amount of energy, and I can feel the eye rolls behind me from my adult children. Coolest trail ever, I say to the next person. As we go up, I'm having a blast, and my energy is being seen by others, and I'm feeling more energy because I love the personal challenge of this extra little bit of seasoning on my hike. The kids are shifting their mindset as they see others smile past me as they walk past, because I know when I'm saying things like, "What a delightful way to spend a day. Enormous opportunities here to see the world, huh?" I know they're looking at me and then they're looking at my kids, and my kids are probably smiling like, "Yeah, that's our dad." Fantastic views all around us. Glorious views up and down the trail, huh? Humongous boulders are ahead, as well as opportunities for you to learn and grow. Incredible day to be out here. I mean, I'm hitting the whole alphabet just like that. We made it to the top of the mountain, and we sat in the shadow of the glacier. As we were hopping across streams and looking at beautiful tundra flowers, I told the kids, I'm pausing on the alphabet because I want to save some for the way down. I was having a ton of fun, and my obnoxious optimism was very evident on the route, annoyingly to both my children and some of the other passersby. But I was saving some energy for the halfway point and then going down, and the letters I was looking forward to trying to challenge myself for. Why? I knew we'd run into other types of hikers. Weekend warriors that had the gear and brought a friend who would look completely defeated as they were chasing their friends up the mountain. The romantic rookies who were constantly asking the people as they were coming down the mountain, how much longer to the top? I wanted to be intentional when I saw them with the ABC challenge and the energy. So as we began our decline and we went further, we came across a really cute young couple, and we noticed that the woman kept looking at her finger. And Grace said, I bet you they just got engaged. Sure enough, the young man had taken the love of his life up to this incredible spot and asked her to spend the rest of his life with him. I yelled out, magnificent! And she held her left hand up and hopped up and down, and she said, it is, it is. My kids were like, that was actually a pretty good one, Dad. As we went to N and everything else, we began to head down the mountain. And sure enough, we ran into all types of hikers. And one of my favorites was a 76-year-old grandfather with his son who was in his mid-40s and his grandson who was in his late teens. As I walked past Henry, and of course, I learned his name and typed it into my notes, I said to him, perfection, man, absolute perfection. And he stopped me. He said, it is. It's a perfect hike. It's a perfect day. It's a perfect time for me to be with my son and my grandson. It's a perfect opportunity for me to be out here. And he's like, I'm 76 years old. This isn't easy, but I am not giving up. And tomorrow we're climbing a 14er. We chatted and we learned from each other. We learned a lot about each other. And we both sat there in the perfect moment talking about how perfect it was that we were with the people that matter the most to us. W. Whew. That was my favorite because it's one of my favorite words. We come across a group of people who are all in their early 30s. Young kids, young men and women, pre-families, and they're just a bunch of couples all together. Males and females, men and men, women and women. It was awesome. And these couples, they were stopped on the trail looking at the lakeside, sitting on boulders. And as we were jumping from rock to get ourselves to the secondary point of the trail, I stop and say to them, Wanderlust. A guy pulls up his sleeve without saying a word, and momentarily I thought he was prepping to fight me, and he showed me his tattoo. On his very muscular interior forearm, in typewritten font, it said, Wanderlust. It was a cool tattoo. He smiled. We smiled. He gave me a huge 5, did the bro, grab my hand, pulled him in for a hug. And by this time, I had also started randomly high-fiving all different types of people on the trail. That guy gave me a ton of energy, all off of one of the words that I was struggling to try to figure out, do I say wonderful, wanderlust, wunderbar? What do I say when I get to W? Anyways, by the time I was at this point, had so much energy as I was walking down the trail. We were 11 miles into the hike on our way down. I started just randomly high-fiving people, especially little people on their mom and dad's shoulders or in backpacks. And I was just having a ton of fun. And I kept doing the ABCs of the hike. After Wanderlust, I was ready. As we were charging down the remaining few miles, I see a woman who was hiking by herself. She was in her late 60s with walking sticks, a pack, all the right gear, and she was taking a break to catch her breath and take a picture of some flowers on the side of the trail. She was looking over the edge of the trail that looked over this beautiful small stream in the forest, and I stopped, stood next to her, and said, Xanadu. I feel like I'm in Xanadu. And she smiled and said, what a great way to describe this. And I said, yeah, it's also a great roller skating opera that you can see Olivia Newton-John in. And we both started to laugh and talked about how cheesy that movie was. And I just kept moving. My kids were like, Dad, what is Xanadu? And I was like, we will watch the YouTube clips when we get back into town. When the hike was over, I had spoken to 26 people. I spoke to way more than that, but I spoke to 26 people very intentionally using the ABCs. 26 people, however, that I would have likely just said hi to, and instead I was the guy on the trail with a ton of energy. And as I was saying a word for each letter of the alphabet, all 4 types of hikers were enjoying the interaction, especially this one. I kept getting more energy with the challenge of starting sentences with 26 different words. When we got to the top of the mountain, people recognized me. When we got to the bottom of the mountain, people recognized me. They're like, you're that guy. My kids, they weren't impressed, but they did get a kick out of it. I stopped on the trail and I said, this will be this year's opening episode of the Smart Thinking Podcast. I stopped and I opened up my phone and I grabbed my notes and I just started typing away. Why? Because we need to bring the energy to the start of this school year and at every level. Leadership, classrooms, fields, courts, and courses. We need to bring leadership every time we start a journey. We need to bring leadership every time we do anything. And no, you did not just accidentally hit 2x to hear my voice twice as fast on the podcast. That's my energy level. This is unbelievable. And why? Why is this my responsibility, Ted? Why do I have to bring the energy? First of all, I'm speaking in third person, so you know it's important. Seriously. If not you, then who? I did the research on this because I'm tired of hearing that positivity alone can't get things done. That's not true. And if you believe it, well, I agree to respectfully disagree with you on that one. Because in the end, I believe that energy does make a difference. I believe that optimism does change the direction of others. And the reason I believe that is because I know it. I know it as a player, as a coach, as a teacher, as a leader. I know it as a family member, as a father, as a husband. I know that what I bring to every given situation is going to make the difference. And you know it too. And yet sometimes we just won't step into that space provided by others when no one else brings the energy. Well, the ABCs of hiking could solve that for you really quick. But why is this important? Well, first of all, early positivity boosts team performance. A positive mood at project launch, a school year launch, it predicts the performance. There was a study in the Journal of Applied Psychology that found that teams starting projects with higher collective positivity had a 31% higher performance score and or outcomes compared to those starting in neutral or negative moods. First impressions matter. Gallup research shows that the tone set in the first week of a project impacts long-term engagement. Teams with a positive early climate had 4.5 times higher engagement levels after 6 months into it. That's right. We start the school year now with energy. We bring the optimism, the belief, the perseverance, and the persistence. And you know what happens? 6 months in, it sustains. 6 months from now is a long time. And boy, would it be good to have that level of energy. Let me take a breath here, because energy drives persistence and problem solving. Energetic teams solve problems faster. Teams with high shared energy levels completed complex problem-solving tasks 27% faster and with 12% fewer errors. I'll take that all day long. And it has an emotional effect. Positive energy from leaders spreads to team members, increasing persistence on challenging tasks up to 48%. You are 48% more likely to demonstrate persistence when things get tough if you know that the people around you are positive and believe we can do it. That is why I am out of the business of pessimism. Persistence fuels perseverance. Perseverance creates wisdom and confidence. And every rookie hiker at the end of their first serious climb is now prepared for the next one, at least mentally, because they're never bringing Crocs on their hike again. Positivity improves collaboration and creativity, because what it does is it allows us to broaden and build effect. Positive emotions increase cognitive flexibility and creativity, with teams generating 45% more original ideas when in a positive mood. You just got to be in a good mood. Cooperative behaviors, positive team climates increase willingness to share resources, collaborate, and work harder for others by 33%. Do you need more research? Okay, well, long-term engagement is sustained by us that have positive cultures and positive attitudes. Employee engagement correlates to this. Teams with higher positive energy networks are more than twice as likely to retain members and report satisfaction after 1 year. Yeah, guess what? People like working with positive people. People like working with people with energy. People will look past errors of others if they know that people believe they can do it. And finally, and most importantly, burnout gets reduced because there's a positive effect within a team, because people with positivity are 23 to 25% less likely to want to leave their job, because they know by the end of the day, the end of the week, the end of the month, the end of the project, people will still maintain optimism. So what do we take away from all this? Well, when we're launching into a project, we need to do so with high energy and positive interactions, because that sets in motion a feedback loop. Early optimism creates stronger engagement, high shared energy, faster problem solving and creativity, and sustained positivity, lower turnover and burnout. And most importantly, through all of that, we're just going to want to be in that environment because it's fun. How you show up, act, and sustain is how others will. So how do we set the tone? Well, whenever there's a problem, we need a process. And the process is the ABCs of energy and enthusiasm. Yeah, let's take this little TikTok trend that Grace brought to me, that I brought to the mountain, and let's bring that in as a simple process to others. And here it is. Put the following prompt up on the board, on the wall, on the projector, on the computer. This is it. By the end of this year, this project, this journey, we will describe it as being blank. We will describe it as being blank. Then give everyone a different letter of the alphabet and have them challenge themselves and write out one-word descriptors using that letter. It will have been amazing. It will have been challenging. It will have been rewarding. It will have been zany. Whatever it is, get them up there. Collect this somewhere publicly and then randomly have people share their reasoning and definition of the words that they used. Because at the end, the key is this. Each step along the journey, we need to pull those letters back out again and remind ourselves of what our energy and ideas and optimism and mindset was at the beginning of the project, so that we can say, we knew this was going to be challenging. We said it was going to be zany, but we also said it was going to be rewarding and worthwhile. And if we do that at the end of each quarter and we remind ourselves of where we started versus where we are, well, we're in a position where we're able to sustain that energy throughout the project, the year, or the journey. Are we acting in a manner that allows us to stay on track, or has our mindset, attitude, and energy shifted? And that's when we can look at our words and make that determination. And if it has, then we can fill that gap with another process by asking ourselves, what do we need to do different in order to get back on track? Pro hikers know to pack almonds, dark chocolate, and extra water. Your pros in your culture will be ready for anything, especially your positive pros. The weekend warrior hikers, they'll be energetic, but will need reminders once in a while. They get tired because they launch with a ton of enthusiasm, but peter out as soon as they get towards the top and run into some resistance or challenges that they didn't see coming. And the passengers, the people who came along because someone else said it was a good idea, well, they'll maintain whatever energy they have around them. They'll look to their partners, and if their partners are tired, they'll be tired. If their partners are fired up, they'll be fired up because they are learning how to be in this type of situation. Make sure to keep some positive pros with the passengers because when the passengers' energy gets low, the positive pros reach into their pocket and are like, hey, here's some dark chocolate. It'll come in handy. Finally, the rookies. Well, the rookies are going to respond however everyone else around them does because they don't know how to respond. If they have the wrong gear or too much or too little water, but they have ignorance on their side, you know what happens? That ignorance is fantastic because, again, they don't know what they don't know. So they don't know what to expect. And as they are still climbing and they ask a pro, how much longer do I have to go? The pro stops, explains what's ahead, but then says, wait, let me show you the way instead of just walking away from you. That's what we need to do in our cultures. We need to create that energy. We need to recognize the different types of hikers that are on the journey with us, and we need to make sure that we're doing everything we can for them. Now, imagine if your classroom, school, hospital, whatever was like this. Well, stop imagining and start doing. Create the energy for your herd. Be the pro with the positive word for every letter and every unique interaction. Charge into your storm, your year, your project, or your day, believing that every interaction matters and the energy you bring is the energy you'll receive. So let's do some smart thinking. Describe the type of hiker you are. List how you bring energy to your interactions. And finally, what word will you use when you get to the letter X? That's it. That's the Smart Thinking Podcast. Hey, as always, thank you for listening, especially if you've been here the whole journey with me, and especially also if you're brand new. Please like and follow this, send me comments or questions, and make sure to share this with other people to help me help them become better leaders around you as well as for themselves. Please know also that I really appreciate the fact that each week you spend this little bit of time with me on my weird journey through life and how I share all the wisdom of the different experiences in my life that I've collected over time, but most importantly, the simple fact that you are willing to charge into the problems that you face. And lastly, thank you to the Well Pennies and Golden Bear Studios for their great music. If you wanted to, there's a really great article on Iowa Public Radio's website about Golden Bear Studios bringing the Des Moines sound to the world. Okay, as we head out, remember that you are a buffalo and a leader, that you matter, and this year is going to be an adventure. So be a pro hiker. Now, before I go, I got to tell you one more story from a hike on that trip. So we're on a different hike one day in the Rocky Mountain National Park, and we run into a bachelorette party, which is a first for me. Because these are not easy trails we were on. We weren't like on the Lily Lake Loop. We were on a legitimate, difficult 7-mile trail. And clearly the women were in their mid-20s and they were hilarious. We were passing them and they were passing us, and they were part of our day for about 15 or 20 minutes collectively. We were on a pretty technical trail, and having the right gear was really important both for your ability to be successful and for your safety. Well, we had just finished kind of army crawling through a boulder field to get to a lake, and we're looking at the lake, and this party of women comes out from around the corner, and they were having a good time. And they also fit every category of the hikers that I have described. The bride-to-be and her as well as a few of her friends had all the right equipment. You could tell that they were on this bachelorette party in the national park and hiking because this was her thing. Then there were a couple in running shoes, and they were kind of the weekend warrior and passengers, and they were slipping all over the place, but they were much better equipped. And finally, one woman comes around the corner and she looks completely frustrated. She has on kind of like flip-flops, a pink summer dress and sunglasses on that were more Monaco than mountains. Her friends are all well ahead of her, and I'm sitting on a boulder watching my kids take pictures a little bit down the trail towards the lake, and I can see the group of women from the bachelorette party is about 1/8 of a mile away. And this woman, in her pink dress, stops next to me and says, "You look like my dad." I start to laugh and say, "He must be a pretty handsome guy." She then says, "Oh my God, now you sound like my dad." I start to laugh, and she looks at me very seriously and says, "I'm only here because of them." And she points to them. And I said to her, "Yeah, but you're here." And I told her, "Look up, look around. This is an incredibly beautiful part of the world. And look at us, we're sitting here next to it." And she says, "I love those girls and I hate this, but I didn't want to ruin it for them. And it is pretty neat up here." I look at her feet and they're all smashed up. She's wearing leather slides, like really small fashionable flip-flops, and holding her purse. Now, for context, we're 5 miles from the trailhead, and this trail was rated difficult, and it's a 12-mile loop. This woman, Mandy was her name, she never stopped. I was amazed, and I even commented, like, how are you doing this in those flip-flops? And she said, it's not easy, but I told them I would do this. I was amazed and told her that it was really cool that she did this for those amongst her, especially her friends. To which she said, well, I did drink some funky mushroom tea this morning, hoping it would get me through this, and I'm feeling pretty good. I laughed so hard. I could not stop thinking about that. First of all, I've never had mushroom tea. As a matter of fact, every time I hear mushrooms, I either think of pasta or, well, I don't know, going on a trip. She patted me on the back, walked over the boulder field, and caught her friends, who, when they saw her, screamed in delight. It doesn't matter who you are, what your role is, or how prepared you are. What matters is mindset and commitment. This year, without drinking any mushroom tea, be Mandy. Be a pro in disguise. Be anyone. But do not quit. This year, there's a storm brewing, a mountain to climb, and people all around you. Do the ABCs of enthusiasm with yourself every day and see how quickly you are the leader, the difference, the energy, and most importantly, the influence.